and welcome back. Now it's time for a news bulletin. I'm Sadia Strzemska. And we start with the meeting of the Coalition of the Willing in Kyiv on Saturday. Leaders of Britain, France, Germany and Poland have issued a bold ultimatum to the Russian president. Embrace an unconditional 30-day ceasefire by Monday or brace for a surge in sanctions and weapons support for Ukraine.
Massive sanctions await the Kremlin in the event of a violation of a ceasefire. These are the takeaways of the Saturday meeting in Kyiv. For European leaders, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk visited the Ukrainian capital and met with Volodymyr Zelensky to show a united front on a 30-day ceasefire deal to be proposed to Russia.
Ukraine is ready to move toward peace quickly and constructively. We accept the American proposal for a full and unconditional ceasefire. In fact, we ourselves are proposing it. Russia, as of now, is rejecting even a ceasefire. And if they refuse something as basic as that, it means they don't want to end the war at all.
Putin has, in the last few hours, sought to put conditions on a ceasefire. It's really important that we make clear an unconditional ceasefire is a ceasefire without conditions.
The Ukrainian foreign minister shared the details of the meeting's aftermath.
Following the Coalition of the Willing meeting in Kyiv, all 5 leaders had a fruitful call with Donald Trump, focused on peace efforts. Ukraine and all its allies are ready for a full unconditional ceasefire on land, air and at sea, for at least 30 days starting already on Monday, if Russia agrees and effective monitoring is ensured. A durable ceasefire and confidence-building measures can pave the way to peace negotiations.
At a subsequent press conference, the leaders also reflected on the next steps.
The real test is ahead of us and ahead of Russia and Putin. We will be waiting for Russia's reaction. One thing is clear, our proposal jointly shaped by the United States, Europe, Canada and Ukraine about the ceasefire is very serious. In the event of a violation of this ceasefire, we agreed that massive sanctions would be prepared and coordinated between Europeans and Americans.
The German Chancellor added that helping Kyiv is not only in Ukraine's interest, but in the common European interest.
For this war threatens not only Ukraine's territorial integrity, it aims to destroy the entire European political order.
In a post on X, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte said he joined more than 20 leaders of the Coalition of the Willing for a call on Saturday, and he endorses the meeting's outcomes. The visit by the 4 leaders to Kyiv marks the first time they have traveled together to Ukraine. During the trip, they also paid respects to the fallen Ukrainian soldiers.
Right after the meeting in Kyiv, Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk once again stressed that the West and Ukraine are ready to further unite in the fight for independence and impose more sanctions on Russia should it reject the 30-day ceasefire proposal.
If this proposal, this generous and unique proposal for an unconditional ceasefire and immediate peace talks will be rejected, if the other side will only engage in deceiving games, we are ready to increase sanctions and to further unify the West around Ukraine in its fight for independence. I am convinced no one reasonable can ignore this call, and if they do, they will pay the consequences. Today, we are cautious optimists, but with your work and determination, this optimism is justified.
Now, I also have a comment on that very issue from co-founder of the Brussels Freedom Hub, Roland Freudenstein, who spoke with TVP World last night.
Today was the best day for Ukraine, for Europe, and for all freedom-loving people in the world since early March with the Oval Office scene between the 2 presidents, Zelensky and Trump. Because the West is now very much tempted, and the Europeans want this, to actually increase the sanctions against Russia and use crippling sanctions for a change. You know, we're not talking about increasing the list of persons that now can't travel to the West or have bank accounts in the West.
So what would cripple Russia?
Secondary sanctions. Secondary sanctions means measures against all companies from the West that still cooperate with Russia, and possibly even third countries. That has not been the case today. The US have so far completely rejected this. But seeing that Putin does not want peace, Trump may come around. And I think we saw the beginning of a new consensus, Euro-American consensus on Russia and Ukraine today in Kyiv.
Now, Vladimir Putin has announced that Russia is open to negotiations without any preconditions, yet he has not committed to the proposed 30-day ceasefire. Instead, he suggested a meeting with Ukrainian representatives in Istanbul. Since Moscow's full-scale invasion in February of 2022, direct talks between Russia and Ukraine have been absent. Speaking at a press conference marking the end of Moscow's Victory Day celebrations, Putin rejected the 30-day ceasefire deal proposed by Ukraine's allies, adding that such a deal could be agreed upon as a result of negotiations conducted in Turkey. Notably, the Russian president did not extend the unilateral 3-day ceasefire that expired at midnight local time. He also accused Ukraine of violating and escalating attacks in the days leading up to the Victory Day truce. Ukraine has also reported that Russian attacks have continued despite the ceasefire. The 30-day ceasefire proposal is supported by both Ukraine's European allies and the US, which has agreed to implement a new package of sanctions should Russia refuse to sign. We also have the latest post on X from Volodymyr Zelensky, so let me read it out. It is a positive sign that the Russians have finally begun to consider ending the war. The entire world has been waiting for this for a very long time, and the very first step in truly ending any war is a ceasefire. There is no point in continuing the killing even for a single day. We expect Russia to confirm a ceasefire, full, lasting and reliable, starting tomorrow, May 12th, and Ukraine is ready to meet. A potentially great day for Russia and Ukraine, says Donald Trump about the prospect of Ukraine-Russia ceasefire negotiations. Trump took to his social media platform Truth Social, seemingly in response to Putin's proposal for peace talks with Ukraine in Istanbul. The US president promised to work with both sides to ensure the negotiations take place. Putin offered to meet with Ukrainian representatives for ceasefire talks in Istanbul in the aftermath of the Coalition of the Willing summit, which saw the leaders of Germany, France, Poland and the UK travel to Kyiv on Saturday in a show of support for President Zelensky. Ukraine's European allies signed a statement demanding that Russia agree to an unconditional 30-day ceasefire starting on Monday, May 12th, threatening to hit Moscow with another package of harsh economic sanctions should it fail to do so.
Take care.
Parliamentary elections are underway in Albania, in which Prime Minister Edi Rama is seeking an unprecedented fourth term in office. Socialist Party leader Rama, who has been in power since 2013, is favored to win against former Prime Minister Sali Berisha of the Democratic Party. Rama, who has been accused of corruption and criticized for a perceived crackdown on the opposition, has centered his campaign on promises to join the EU. Berisha's campaign has borrowed tactics from the Trump campaign, hiring his former strategist and adopting the slogan, "Make Albania Great." Surveys show the socialist polling between 49.9% and 50.5%, enough to secure around 74 to 75 seats in the 140-member parliament, just above the threshold needed to govern alone. The main opposition coalition, led by the Democrats, is trailing with 37 to 41% and is projected to take between 54 and 59 seats, a drop compared to previous elections. An international naval clearance operation called Open Spirit is underway in Lithuania. The goal of the operation is to clear the waters of the World War II era mines and to demonstrate military readiness when duty calls.
NATO warships were on full display in the port of Klaipėda in Lithuania on Saturday as vessels docked to participate in a naval clearance operation called Open Spirit. The task at hand was to clear World War-era mines still residing in the waters of the Baltic Sea.
Actually, in Lithuania, in total it was 15 minefields and mine lines laid. during the First and Second World War. It's more than 1,600 mines. Currently, until now, we found 200 and neutralized 202 mines. And there are still some mines left. We're calculating that's about 10 to 30% mines are still present at sea.
But not only was the naval technology a display for society to see, the operation was also an opportunity to play out some real-life scenarios and showcase the country's military readiness.
The purpose of we call this open chip, so to show for our society how the technology is developing, how our armed forces is developing, and how we actually preparing for possible conflict. This exercise or this operation is not only a peacetime operation, it's also preparation for real-life missions, actually.
Visitors were free to set foot on the deck of a warship and see for themselves how technology develops.
Well, I love my country, and I think that military is part of our country and it is very important for our defense. So that's why I'm here with my kid to show him, because of course as a kid he's very interested in technique and ships. So
the mission is set to continue in Lithuania's waters until May 23rd.
The White House has agreed to Germany's transfer of 100 Patriot air defense missiles to Ukraine, the New York Times reported on Saturday, citing a source in the U.S. Congress. The transfer will also include 125 long-range artillery shells. Ukraine is believed to have 8 Patriot systems, 2 of which are currently not operational. Kyiv has long appealed to allies for supplies of systems and missiles to bolster the country's air defense in the face of Russia's continued massive air attacks on Ukrainian cities and vital infrastructure facilities. Patriot systems are manufactured in the US and cannot be exported without US government approval, even if they belong to another country. The transfer of the Patriot missiles would be the second publicly announced decision to supply new military equipment to Ukraine since Donald Trump took office, following the sale of spare parts for F-16 aircraft authorized after the signing of the minerals deal. A new museum has opened on the site of the former Schindler factory in the Czech Republic, marking a significant chapter in Holocaust remembrance. It honors the 1,200 Jews saved by Oskar Schindler during World War II. Descendants of survivors, politicians and visitors from around the world gathered for the opening, reflecting on a legacy of courage and humanity. Sasha Farbach reports.
Now we're here in Brennec in the central Czech Republic, the crossroads of history. And all around us, an old textile mill, which has a long history in itself, but it was a critical place where, at the end of World War II, in 1945, it served as the place where, in the last waning months of the war, 1,200 Jews were transported here and ultimately saved by Oskar Schindler. Now, their journey began in Krakow, and through Oskar Schindler's doings, he was able to move them here, where ultimately they were freed. Now, this place also is a site of not just the darkness in the war, but also about hope, about that resilience and a test of the human spirit.
The message is you can triumph over anything. If you believe enough, the message is one of the human spirit over tyranny, which we are unfortunately seeing too much of in the world at the moment, and that it just takes one good person to make a massive difference.
Also, by speaking to survivors, or rather the descendants of survivors, really got a perspective, also things that matter to them, especially a very touching conversation with the daughter of a key person here, Mr. Josef Bau, and critically forger and counterfeiter, who worked very closely with Oskar Schindler to ensure that these people were saved. And there was only optimism about the human spirit when we spoke with her.
Our father actually was the forger here, and he saved all the 1,200 Jews. He did for them papers, he did for them all the identity card, what they need, and never told. He stood only to help. This is the place for education, to learn about our parents, about how they lived, and all the people that one need to love each other. They need to love. Hatreds need to be in the garbage. And here you can understand this deeper. Because of this is so important.
Now with that, this place serves also as a museum, not just for that dark time in history. It's also a story of people, of survival, but ultimately is a place which gives us hope for the future. That's Sasha Farbach for TVP World in the Czech Republic.
And with this, we conclude this news bulletin. Thank you for watching. And